and welcome to DBTV. My name is Gauravi Keni and you're watching another interesting episode of Crossroads. Today we have with us Mr. Derick Almeida. It's a pleasure to have you on our show, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Derick Almeida is the editor at The Goan, which is an English daily in Goa. He started his career as the sub-editor at O Heraldo, and previously he's worked as the executive editor at The Navin Times and The Gomantak Times. Mr. Almeida is here with us today to discuss the scope and challenges of the mass media field in Goa. So to begin with, sir, the viewers and I were very keen to know that you've done your degree in BSc in physics. So how come you decided to pursue a career in the field of mass media?
You see, the time I passed out and I got my degree, in those days, nobody really thought of a career. This whole thing of pursuing careers is maybe 10 years old or 10, 12 years old. So in those days we got a degree and then we took that degree and we looked for a job. Yeah. Of course, yes, there is a huge difference between being between BSc and journalism. Now, the time when I got into the newspapers in O Herald, they weren't really looking at degrees. What was very important to them was that that you were a graduate, and secondly that you had a good command over the language, and that you were interested in doing the work, and that you didn't mind doing night shifts. These were some basic criteria that they were, and the other thing is you didn't mind working at low wages.
Okay.
So these were some of the basic, requirements that time. This was almost like 25, 28 years ago. So that's how I got into the line. It had nothing to do with my training.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you decided to stick to it because of some sort of...
How did I decide to stick to it? Yes. See, what happened is after you work for about 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, then I sort of looked back. I said, now what do I have? I have a BSc degree, right? But I have 4 years of experience in this line. And then I sat down, I thought about it, and I said, okay, I will make this my career. Because otherwise I would have to start afresh.
Yeah.
Those were, those days I think, IT, computer training courses were just coming in.
Okay.
But to shift, it would mean investment. Secondly, it would mean starting afresh, leaving all this behind. And I decided, no, I would like to take this up because it's something, that had a very close connect with people, very close connect with happenings, with interaction between government and people, people and people. There was this, you got to know the pulse of what was going on in a state or a country. So that, I think, is what kept me going, and I didn't mind doing night shifts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving ahead on that note only, right now there is a huge focus on degrees if we notice the change. So how do you think when it comes to journalism or mass media degrees, how do you think students will benefit from attending such courses?
It all depends on the course. You see, when now we are like say now I'm an editor, I'm in a newspaper. When somebody comes to me and says, look, I have this degree in mass media or journalism. For us, what's important is what is the sort of training that you have been given, during this course. 2 is, does the training actually match the job requirements?
Okay.
Very often what happens is, it's not really tuned to industry, to what we require.
Okay.
So then we tend to, fall back onto the basics. The basics of what can you write? 1, 2 is, are you the kind of person who likes to go out and meet people and interact with people? Are you the kind of person who's very curious? You want to dig out facts. You want to dig out a little more information about something. So these are the things then we start looking for actually. But there are some really wonderful courses, in some of the colleges here, I think, and some of the colleges even in Mumbai or Bangalore, even Chennai, I'm told, is where the training that is imparted is very close to what industry
to what
requires.
the industry looks.
So if you look at that course and somebody goes and does this course, then it's a huge benefit, because these are, over a period of time what happens is the industry knows which courses are good and which courses are okay, and you begin to recognize those courses, and then it helps if you do this course. So nowadays I think the requirement is if you do a course, there is some benefit, but I still feel there needs to be a very close match between industry requirements and the curriculum of the course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you list out some of these qualities that you look for in students particularly, which will help them sort of become more competitive in this market?
See, one of the problems we face when we interview people is first of all, you're not very sure.
Okay.
Students coming in are not very sure whether they want to take up journalism or mass media as a profession or career. So they are kind also of groping. They are looking for, some of them are looking for this regular 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 kind of job. They also are not very sure of what to expect. What we look for is, one is, we make it very clear, like, these are our requirements. You'll have to fit in. Now, we can't change the industry, we can't change our setup or anything to suit you. Yeah? But if you come down to basic requirements, one is, you have to work hard in any career that you take up. And in that sense, journalism or mass media is not different. You have to. The working hours might be a little odd, right? There is no such thing as you work after, say, like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, you just wind up and go. There is no such thing in media. So one thing we look for is, are you the type who just wants, you come in at 9 and you go out at 5? Then it's a problem.
Okay.
Secondly is whether the most important thing, whether it's English journalism or Marathi or Hindi or anything, you have to have a very good command over the language. This is a very basic requirement. So you might have a degree, or you might have a diploma in journalism or mass media, but if you cannot write, then it all goes to waste.
It's a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem. On the other hand, suppose you might not be able to write, but you might be very articulate, you might be able to speak well, then you could get into television. Okay, because there you don't have to write too much. You don't have to write at all. Yes? But you have to be able to, feel the pulse, pick up, what's happening, and articulate it before the camera almost instantaneously.
Okay.
So if you have that knack, then maybe that's the field for you. Yeah, that's the line for you. But language, very important. And as I said, you need to be curious. You need to be the kind of person who is willing to run about.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. That is if you're working in the reporting field or features. Now there is also the back end. That would be like the front end. Yeah. The back end would be the news desk or the production side, where you have to edit and give headlines and do designing and make pages and all. Those hours are more or less fixed.
Okay.
Yes. But they may extend. You might have to come early sometime, you might have to go late sometimes. Okay. So there at least, okay. But even there, language is a basic requirement.
Okay.
Yeah. Irrespective of whether you're doing it in, as I said, English or Hindi or Marathi, Konkani, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would you say that a desk job is more challenging than a reporting job, or?
I would say it depends on who you are.
Okay.
It depends on what you want to do.
Okay.
Like I started out on the news desk. Worked for many years on the news desk. But if you only sit and you only work on the news desk, then you see one side of journalism. And you restrict yourself to one side of journalism. If you're on the news desk, you must make this effort, to go out and file a story. At least once in 15 days or once a week. You have to do that. Otherwise, to my mind at least, I would say that this person is not a complete journalist. Yeah, you don't get a feel of what's going on in the state or the country if you're only sitting behind in the back end. You have to move out once in a while. Otherwise, you don't. It's like me, listening to the story you're telling me about something else that's happened. Sometimes I need to bypass you and go out in the field and get it firsthand. So you need to do that. But as far as challenges, yes, there are challenges even in the back end. Yeah, because suppose the reporter, he will file a story. It's up to the person at the back end, at a sub-editor or a chief sub-editor or the news editor, to take that story, get the right angle, write a proper headline, display it properly. All these things, it completely changes the
perspective.
Yes, the perspective, and it changes the excitement in the story. It brings a little more excitement. You can take a good story and you can completely kill it with a bad headline or a very sloppy intro. Okay? So yes, there are challenges on both ends.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you would suggest beginners to start with collecting stories or reporting first?
You could start anywhere, depending on your interests, But you need to learn both sides.
Okay.
Yes. If you want to move upwards, you need to have a feel of both sides.
Okay. Yeah. So focusing on Goa, specifically on Goa, can you tell us what is the scope for the media industry right now?
See, right now we have a lot of Marathi newspapers.
Okay.
We have at least four or five established English newspapers. You have 4 or 5, I would say, and so then you have television. Yes, so there is a lot of scope. Okay, but at the same time, this scope is not the same as the scope that is available to you, say, in larger cities, like say Mumbai or Delhi or Bangalore. You will have bigger newspapers there. You will have a number of television networks. If you enter, say, one of the television networks at the national level, then you will have experience at various levels. You get your perspective has to be countrywide, So Goa, in a sense, is limited, but at the same time, we are constantly looking for good people in the industry. Even as of now, we find it very difficult to get good people. So yes, there is scope in that sense. There's scope at the back end, that is the news desk. There's scope at the reporter level. There is scope at the I would say features. Right now, features has become a big thing in Goa in the last, I would say, 10 years. It's become a separate department here. So anybody with the criteria that we talked about earlier could very easily get a job in Goa, because we are always looking, and people are always upgrading. Some are leaving, doing other jobs. Some may leave and go to bigger cities. So there's always some vacancies here and there.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
Do you think it is the money factor that affects their decision? I mean, what kind of salary can a fresh graduate expect?
I don't know what effect. Like, see, when I was in Gomantak Times, say about 10 years back, we were offering a starting salary of 10,000.
Okay.
Yeah. I think now it must be even more, 15 to 17.
Okay.
Yeah, at least 15 could be a starting salary if the person is, and then it depends on the person you're recruiting also, no? A little experience, of course, helps. But once you get there, then with your increments, it all depends on how you perform. You can move up, So I wouldn't say money is so much the issue.
Okay.
It's that I find that the number of people getting into the profession and the number of people that we need, there's a mismatch, It's not like you put out an ad and there's a line of students, outside your organization waiting, to get in. Sometimes it's the other way around. We are making calls, we are calling friends, saying, do you know anyone who wants to be a reporter? Do you know anyone who wants to be a sub-editor? So I'm not getting enough people wanting to get